So here's the tuba in all of its glory, nice and shiny and pretty and big. This may look different from your tuba, and that's okay. Tubas do look different. Let's talk about some of the parts, and as we're talking about them, we can talk about how your instrument may look different from this one. One of the most important things is the valves, and those are down here where I rest my hand. Now this instrument has 4 valves, and these are valves that go up and down. These are what we call piston valves. You may have 3 or 4 valves. It really doesn't matter that much at this point whether you have 3 or 4. And you may have a different kind of valves where you have little levers. They're what we call rotary valves. Instrument will sound the same, will play the same. Everything that we're talking about will be the same regardless of that. You also may have a different style of instrument that has piston valves that go up and down like these, but instead of being on the front of the instrument, they're up here. It's what we call an upright valve instrument. And again, it's not going to play any differently. Everything we talk about will work the same regardless of how that instrument looks. So these are the valves. See if you can find the valves on your instrument. And there'll be either 3 or 4 of them, and we just number them 1 through 3 or 1 through 4. This part up here is what we call the bell. Most tuba bells look like this. You may have one that's actually turned forward, what we call a bell front. Again, it's not going to make a difference as we teach. Most important part that we have to worry about is right here. This is what we call the lead pipe, and this is where the mouthpiece goes in. And that's a very important part because that's the only thing we have to worry about with assembly as we put the instrument together. And that's what we're going to do next. So I have my instrument and I have my mouthpiece. Brass instruments, especially tuba, very, very easy to assemble. All you have to do is put the mouthpiece into the lead pipe, what we call the mouthpiece receiver right here, the very end of it. Now when we put it in, we want to give it just a little bit of a twist as we push. If you don't do that, the mouthpiece can fall out really easily. So that little twist makes it, see now it's in there pretty steadily. Then when I want to take it out, all I have to do is just twist the other direction. So it's just like if you were turning a doorknob or something like that. Put it in, little bit of a twist, little twist as you pull it out. That'll keep the mouthpiece from getting stuck. Now one of the main ways that it gets stuck is that people push it in too hard or they kind of hit on the mouthpiece like this. Now it makes kind of a cool sound. And I think that's why people like to do it, but that's a great way to get your mouthpiece stuck. And if you want your band director to be upset, get your mouthpiece stuck because it's really difficult to get them out. They have to use a special tool. So that's not something we're going to do. Again, very gently put it in, give it a little twist as you push, twist back the other way to pull it out. So with the instrument assembled, you see tuba is a pretty large instrument, and so there's some things that we need to keep in mind as we're handling the instrument. Here I'm up kind of in my playing position. We'll talk about this in a later lesson, how to set everything up correctly, but it'll basically be sitting either on the chair or on your lap or on some type of a support or a tuba stand, upright like this. Now when we're not playing, the safest place to have the instrument is on your lap. You just kind of move it to the side like that. I actually like to hold on to it with both hands because it keeps me from dropping it, and it also keeps me from running into anything. So that's very simple. We pick it up like this, we move it to our lap. Now sometimes we have to get up from our chair. If class is over, if band rehearsal is over, or if you need to go get something, we don't want to carry the tuba around because that's a great way to make sure it gets damaged. So we want to put it down on the floor or back in the case. Back in the case is always safest, but if you need to leave it close, there's 2 ways that we can do this when we put it on the floor. The safest thing is just to lay it flat, which is the same thing you can also do on your lap like this. It's best if you take the mouthpiece out as you do that to keep the mouthpiece from falling out, but if you gave it that twist, it should be okay. The other way that we'll set our tuba down on the floor is to actually let it rest on the bell if you have an upright bell like this. When we do that, it's not very stable. You don't want to leave the instrument sitting all by itself on the bell because it's very easy to knock it over. So usually we try to lean it against a chair or lean it against a wall. If you don't have something to lean it against, the instrument is much safer if you lay it flat on the floor or put it back in the case. If you are going to leave the instrument flat or set it on the bell, try not to leave it somewhere where people are going to be walking through. And I know that's difficult in the band room sometimes because there's a lot of traffic around. but we have to be extra special careful with these instruments. One other concern when we're moving the tuba, even just from your lap down to here or putting it to the floor, look around you. It's very easy to run into something as you're moving the horn. This is a very big instrument. It's very heavy. It can be kind of unwieldy at times. So make sure you look around, that there's nothing you're going to run into as you're doing it, especially just the other tubas. It's very easy to just clank your tubas together as you're moving them. Every little bit of damage will start affecting the way the instrument plays over time, and it certainly will affect the way it looks. And you want to take pride in your instrument. Keep it looking nice. Be very, very careful with how you move it around. As a tuba player, there's a few things you're always going to want to keep in your case. Things that just a good musician will always have, and some things to take care of the instrument. You want to have valve oil and slide grease, and we'll talk about how to use those in some of the lessons coming up. That's to keep the instrument in good condition all the time. You'll also want to have a metronome and a tuner. Now those are tools that we're going to use throughout our lessons, especially as we get into the later ones. Those help us know if we're doing things correctly, and they're really important tools to use. You may already have that as part of your band program. The other thing that you're always going to want to have is a pencil. Sometimes you have to mark the music, sometimes you want to take notes of something that's being covered in class, so always have a pencil in the case. So one more time, in your case all the time, valve oil, slide grease, metronome, tuner, and a pencil.